So despite the season only just starting, it's clear that Ten Hag's going through a rough period. I wouldn't say it's a crisis just yet, but you certainly wouldn't say a crisis is far off. But even the great Sir Alex Ferguson went through these kind of periods at United, so what can Ten Hag take from how Sir Alex Ferguson dealt with these sort of spells? But before I go any further, are you looking to dramatically improve your fantasy football point score from last season? Well, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Fantasy Football Fix, which is the perfect tool for anyone who wants to get the best possible start to this FPL season, as they provide an Elite 11 team reveal which allows you to track fantasy football's greatest ever managers in real time, with over 82 top 10,000 and 61 top 5,000 finishes. And just in my opinion, if you're not using this and someone else is, you're at a massive disadvantage. But not just that, Fantasy Football Fix also allows you to see the pre-deadline captain ownership data. The assistant manager tool also allows you to unlock transfer optimization, and you can also get predicted prices data to potentially get an advantage in the long run by increasing your team's overall value. And alongside this, they also have stats from Opta, they have predicted player points and much more. And I personally will definitely be using Fantasy Football Fix, and I'll be setting up my own fantasy football league, so I'll put a code somewhere either on the screen or in the description. So not only can you join my league, but you can also use Fantasy Football Fix to try to beat me as well. And so I'll leave it linked in the description for you to go to after this video. This part of the video was written by What If Football. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below. So Manchester United have been enveloped in a constant state of crisis in the past decade, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out why. Since retirement of Sir Alex Ferguson, combined with the toxic ownership of the Glazer family, without the Scotsman as a safety net, United haven't returned to the heights of the 27-year dynasty left behind by the greatest football manager of all time. And yet Sir Alex Ferguson had his own periods of crisis, from his 4-year trophy drought that allegedly had him on the brink of the sack prior to Mark Robins' FA Cup third round winning goal against Nottingham Forest, to the lean period of the mid-2000s when clubs from London ruled the Premier League. Ferguson bounced back and United returned to the top. So what can Erik Ten Hag learn from these droughts? Well, 2005 was potentially the roughest year in Sir Alex Ferguson's reign, at least in the Premier League era anyway. A botched transition away from the 4-4-2 and poor recruitment decisions in the midfield forced a reworking of the entire squad. A squad that pitted the young and the inexperienced around players of former glories who were entering their early 30s. What's more, Arsenal still basked the glow of their invincibility, but United were standing in an even more threatening shadow, Chelsea and their bottomless riches, who under Jose Mourinho had now become a serious force. United could definitely recall against a great Arsene Wenger team. Ferguson knew that. He'd ridden their challenge before, but was caught well and truly cold with Jose Mourinho's steadying of the cash-rich Chelsea. The transition of 03 to 06 took some time and there were some choppy waters, notably the dumping of Roy Keane and the controversial buyout from the Glazer family. The Americans finally gained a majority ownership, plunging the club into debt, which forced a hierarchical shake-up, a splinter club from FC United of Manchester, and several fiery campaigns under the green and gold banners. The club hadn't known debt since the days of Sir Matt Busby, and so it proved to be the worst time to lose a talisman such as Roy Keane, the sort of player United needed to drag themselves back to the top. Simply put, how Ten Hag can learn from this is to continue in his methods. Since the retirement of Sir Alex Ferguson in 2013, the role of Manchester United manager has been taken for granted. If one doesn't go to plan, the owners won't bother investing to make it work because another can simply be brought in. Since the comically influential Ed Woodward has departed, Erik Ten Hag has been able to come into the job with a form of stature. Entering into the role in 2022, he certainly seemed to circumnavigate any and all roadblocks. It is likely that from a manager to player perspective, Ten Hag has probably already overcome his hardest obstacle, as if there was ever a modern player as influential to a team's ethic, in comparison to Roy Keane, it was definitely Cristiano Ronaldo. The manager outlasted Ronaldo, a player who was certainly unique in every way possible. Ten Hag's shunning of Ronaldo, the world's highest profile player, was certainly a situation. However, that rumbled on for a few months. Even before Ten Hag took to the dugout, people questioned the pair's compatibility with one another. Meanwhile, Roy Keane's outburst on MUTV punditry against Middlesbrough in late 2005 was the cause of his rather swift and harsh downfall. United never really did find a long-term replacement for Roy Keane, except changed how their midfield would work. Owen Hargreaves was long courted and agreed terms 18 months later, and was actually signed a further year on top of that. Meanwhile, Paul Scholes moved deeper into a double pivot with the man that claimed Keane's number 16, Michael Carrick. In a way, Ten Hag has already taken inspiration, probably indirectly, from how Ferguson moved on from Roy Keane, his greatest ever captain. Cristiano Ronaldo, the number 9 Ten Hag met upon his Old Trafford appointment, was a central striker that refused to press and wanted the team to work around him. But like Ferguson, Ten Hag hasn't got the replacement he desired, Harry Kane, and it's because of Bayern Munich and Tottenham. However, by signing Rasmus Højlund, the profile of United's attack has evolved, as Sir Alex Ferguson evolved the club's midfield in the late 2000s. When Ferguson revamped his midfield, he dispatched of Chelsea and appeared in 3 Champions League finals in quick succession, but it took a generation of groundwork to do so, and that groundwork was being laid in the late 1980s, as in retaliation to a cacophony of failure, United fans erected a famous banner against Crystal Palace in 1989, telling Alex Ferguson to leave the club. Whilst Ten Hag has traversed the hurdle of winning silverware in his first season, it was the League Cup and merely something to build upon. When Sir Alex took the Old Trafford hot seat in November 1986, there was a stable of more recent successful clubs in their way, namely Liverpool, Everton and soon to be Arsenal. The field Ten Hag has to overcome is larger, and there is no obstacle bigger than Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. And unfortunately for Ten Hag in many regards, that's just a standard he has to meet, as English football is currently at the top of its game. Much like it was through the Liverpool of Bob Paisley, Joe Fagan and Kenny Dalglish throughout most of the 1980s. After throwing money around and getting nowhere, Ferguson evolved to purchase smarter Dennis Irwin from Oldham, Lee Sharp from Torquay, Gary Pallister from Middlesbrough and Roy Keane from Nottingham Forest, all players either from outside the top flight or unfashionable clubs, and they would go on to form the backbone of Ferguson's first great team. From Leeds United winning the last First Division title in 1992, United conquered the Premier League in 1993 and 1994. United, perhaps with the exception of Chelsea in recent years, could be accused of spending money as haphazardly as Ferguson did upon his appointment in 1986. Signings of Malacia, Mount, Martinez and Højlund will certainly help Ten Hag and United edge away from the costlier mistakes of Falcao, Di Maria, Lukaku and maybe even Cristiano Ronaldo, to name a few. Ferguson's bedrock was his scouting network and his youth recruitment, as a class of 92 formed the foundations of his second and maybe his greatest ever team, the treble winners of 1999. For Ten Hag to do the same thing with United's scouting network in 2023 seems to be a feat just short of colonising the moon for United. Therefore, in order to learn from Ferguson, Ten Hag merely has to get United to evolve their youth recruitment, and it would likely look a lot more like taking a leaf out of the books of Manchester City and Chelsea in fast-tracking a burgeoning youth academy, or Liverpool in their smarter first-team spending in recent times. All 3, however, follow the same theme: adapting and evolving. Erik ten Hag has made a great start to life as Manchester United manager, but the setbacks seem to be coming thick and fast. His next challenge is to further evolve. The continual culling of fringe players and reshaping of the squad will take time, and whilst a potential tricky second season lays ahead, I think most United fans would agree that Old Trafford is in safe hands with Erik ten Hag at the helm. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, check out my Patreon podcast which will be linked below, and put your thoughts on United at the moment in the comments section as well.